The Council of Light started by talking about new structures in business and commerce. And I felt the disintegration of corporate America as far back as 15 years ago. I've had a number of experiences in business, often thinking that my timing was off, probably preparing me for this time now. Is there any insight or guidance to those of us who are creating new business structures now?
Yes, we're the Pleiadians. It is a tricky time on your planet to create business when the old is falling apart, but yet at the same time, the new doesn't seem as if it's going in the right direction. And what you're here to navigate as business owners is a more conscious type of commerce that could never match the unconsciousness of an old system. And again, you are this free to explore these structures. The quantum aspect of where you are heading in the fifth dimension must come into this answer because it is important to understand what a quantum experience is. We have talked at great length about the Mandela effect, for example, and how you are moving into a new time-space reality. But quantum time is a concept that many don't understand. It is something that is born within you. And as businesses have been focused on constructs of time and money, there's a new equation or balance that must be found. For the value of any employee or any transaction is something that is going to be completely different than it was before. Now, as we are stating this, we know that many of you are still in the midst of that transition and can't conceptualize of what we speak. For now, begin to look at everything that you are creating, business-wise or other, as having its anchor in service. This is a different way of perceiving business than it has been in the fifth dimension. Many of you were focused on material or some product or service, and that became the focal point for building a model. And that model was not necessarily wrong, but it doesn't apply anymore as you move into the fifth dimension. What all of you are providing is something that humanity needs, but could never look the same as anything or anyone else. And this is where we think new commerce and business will set itself apart from a structure that is going to have a very difficult time managing the third dimension and its requirements. Not because you're not complying so much as because what you're creating doesn't exist there anymore. And this has a lot to do with languaging and communication. It has a lot to do with what you open source, not meaning you have to give things away, but how you conceptualize what you're here to do. That is so incredibly important. We know that the guidelines that are coming out now for maintaining a business is actually putting it in a very disadvantageous position. But we want you to remember the consequences that exist are really only for those that comply. So if you're not complying to the consequences and you're not buying into an old structure that must supply anything to you that you need, you are truly free and creating in a different hologram where those consequences won't show up for you. And we validate this by saying that you all exist in different matrices and holograms. And sometimes what you believe to be true will draw and coincide with something else that implicates your path. So your ability to vision into the fifth dimension now and bring it into a new business model is what makes it so. It is that simple. But we want to allude to also quantum communication because we think the most tricky part of creating commerce at this time is navigating the different beliefs of society and how they're going to desire to operate. It is very important for businesses to communicate not what side of the fence they are on, because this is a current dilemma we see complicating the issue. Taking sides is like creating war. But for business to actually come in and communicate their corporate culture or mission in a way that draws those that match it is highly required. And then what you may find is perhaps those that weren't on the same path with you or your business have the room to consciously transition and interact with it in very free ways. We've brought the word freedom in many times as we've answered this question, and we will give that as the overarching answer to what you have asked. To see as freely as possible into the future and to create it in the way that best suits you and all others is what is most important. Anything put back into the old hierarchy is going to be affected by the changes that take place in that hierarchy. But the freedom to create outside and navigate that path to your choosing is the most beneficial and we would say prudent path for a business owner to take.